Hi all. I would like to welcome you to this first virtual class. And also I want to inform you that we'll be having our classes on Thursday and not on Mondays. It's supposed to be on Thursdays from 8 a.m. to around 11 a.m. Remember, this is a common unit. You're sharing amongst different courses. So please be attending the classes on Thursday from 8 a.m. to around 11 a.m. I've talked to you at JMS class. I've talked to your lecturer who is handling English for beginners. It's supposed to be on Thursday. So she will communicate to you on what is the best time for you, because right now on Thursday from 8, we're supposed to be having this HIV and AIDS class, which is a common unit. So please be attending so that you may move with us. You may not be left behind. Then I want us to start with some definition here and there of what is HIV and AIDS. And then I want us to start with some definition, and then we'll be able to know what is HIV, what is AIDS, what is the difference between those two words, and then see how HIV affects the immune system. But of course, we'll start with how is the immune system of a human body reacts to HIV and AIDS, and what types of cell or what types of blood cells normally is affected by HIV and AIDS. So I'll start by defining what HIV, and HIV is a virus that causes AIDS. So AIDS is what is caused by HIV and HIV. So HIV is a virus that causes AIDS, and this virus attacks the immune system or the body defense mechanism against diseases. So the body normally have cells or immune cells that normally prevents it from getting or from being attacked by disease or causing microorganisms such as viruses, such as bacteria. So this HIV virus normally attacks the immune system. So when the body immune system is attacked, it means that the body will not be able to prevent itself from getting attacked by other microorganism that causes diseases, and by that the body becomes weak, and it's here to get diseases like fever, like cholera, like diarrhea, and other health problems, diseases like TB, because the viruses or the bacteria that causes all these diseases will easily attack the body now that the body do not have any defense mechanism. Then HIV is found in blood, breast milk, semen, and vaginal fluids. That's why a person who is in directly contact with blood that is infected with HIV and AIDS, like for example transfusion, will get the virus. Then a baby that is taking or breastfeeding from a mother which is who is HIV and AIDS positive may get the viruses from the milk. Semen and vaginal fluids, of course, during sex. This is how the viruses can get from one person to the other. Then AIDS has two phases. We have HIV infection, where it is the entry of this virus or HIV virus, that is human immunodeficiency virus, inside the body. And at this phase, there is no any symptoms that is occurring. Then we have AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, which is the terminal stage where we have the signs and symptoms now present, very prevalent, or you can easily detect that this person is suffering from a disease. Then we also have other opportunistic infection. Opportunistic infection are infections that are caused by other things or by other microorganisms that causes diseases. So opportunistic infection can be diarrhea, because you're easily attacked by bacteria that causes this diarrhea and cholera and the likes, because your immune system is very weak. So AIDS has two phases, where there is entry of this virus when there is no any symptoms, and when you're at full blown, that is where you have signs and symptoms are prevalent, as well as opportunistic infections are very prevalent. So we'll come to see this more later as we go on with the unit. Then the immune system is the body defense systems against diseases. I think I've already said that. Then this immune system is composed of white blood cells. If you can remember high school biology, the work of the white blood cell was to prevent the body from getting infections. But we have different kinds of white blood cells. We have lymphocytes, we have basophils, we have neutrophils. All these are white blood cells that normally protects our body from getting diseases. But our concern, or the most white blood cells of much concern in our unit, we'll study more on lymphocytes. And these lymphocytes normally plays an important role in helping the body immune system. And of much concern of this lymphocyte is CD4 cells, which are special type of lymphocytes that normally this CD4 cells is the one that it is normally destroyed. The first one to be affected by this HIV and AIDS virus is CD4 cells, and it's the loss of these CD4 cells that leads to the weakening of the immune system. So how does this happen? We'll come to see this first. But the main target of HIV is these CD4 cells. Then what is this CD4 cell I'm talking about? This is a lymphocyte that normally occur on the surface of helper T cells. So this helper T cells is a receptor, acts as a receptor for HIV. It's the one that normally invites HIV into the human. So this CD4 cell is normally on top of the helper T cells. Remember that. That is actually function to facilitate recognition of antigen by these helper T cells. So the work of these helper T cells, the work of these CD4 cells on the helper T cell is to help recognize antigen. What is an antigen? This is like a poison that is normally the one that will attack you. For example, if a bacteria attacks your cell, the antigen from that bacteria is what we call, or the poison from that bacteria is what we are calling here antigen. So these helper T cells are this CD4 cell normally function to facilitate the recognition of antigen by these helper T cells. Then, what is a T cell? Let's go to help. What is a T cell? And then we'll combine all this in one. So, this is a type of lymphocyte. An example of this T cell is the helper T cell that I'm talking about, that differentiate in the thymus, possesses highly specific cell surface antigen receptors. As I have already said, these helper T cells normally have these receptors that normally possess the CD4 that will help the T cell to notice that this is not a normal cell. This is a bacteria cell, this is a virus cell, this is a fungal cell. So this CD4 cells normally possesses these antigen receptors. And remember, these receptors are the one that holds the CD4 cells, and include some that control the initiation or suppression of cell-mediated humoral immunity. What is this? Humoral immunity occurs when the cell recognizes antigen outside the cell. So once the cell recognizes the antigen that is outside the cell, this cell will proliferate or will differentiate and activate another cell we call B cell. So before even we go to B cell, I'll repeat myself. This helper T cell, we've said, contains these antigen receptors. What is a receptor? A receptor is like a bell that will signal the entire village that we have intruders, or you have some emergency in the village. So these receptors are the one that normally recognizes this antigen or other bacteria or other microorganism causing diseases and signal other cells. So the work of this T cell is to signal other cells. Remember that. And remember, these T cells normally contains receptors, and these receptors houses the CD4. What is the work of CD4? It will help recognize, it will help a T cell to recognize the antigen. I hope you're following. Then, by that, remember how humoral immunity I've said is the immunity that is activated when the T cells normally recognize antigen that is outside the cell itself. What is cellular immunity? You have two types of immunity. You have humoral immunity and cellular immunity. I want you to differentiate the two. Cellular immunity normally recognizes antigen inside the cell. Humoral immunity is when the T cell recognize antigens that are outside the cell. I hope you're following now. So both cellular immunity work hand in hand with humoral, but for cellular, it will recognize antigen inside. For humoral immunity, it is recognition of antigen outside the cell. Then, so this includes, repeat this, N of several, these T cells include some that control the initiation or suppression of cell-mediated humoral immunity. Remember that, as by the regulation of T and B cell maturation and proliferation, and others that lies antigen-bearing cells called T lymphocyte compared B cells. Let me go to helper T cell now. A T cell that participate in an immune response by recognizing a foreign antigen and secreting lymphocyte to activate T cells and B cell proliferation, and that usually carries CD4 molecular markers on its cell surface. I think I've already said that. The work of these helper T cells is to recognize foreign matter and activate or signal other cells, signal other T cells and B cells to proliferate. What is proliferation? This is multiplication of other cells. So other T cells and B cells will be activated by helper T cells. Let me go back. I don't want to get confused. Helper T cell is an example of a T cells, but our main concern here is on this T cell, because this T cell is what we are calling, we are saying that it normally houses the CD4 cell that normally helps it to recognize antigens that are foreign. So once it recognizes the antigen, it will activate the B cells. Then B cell, what is a B cell? This is another lymphocyte that have antigen binding antibody molecules on the surface that compresses the antibody secreting plasma cells when mature, and that is more differentiated in the bone marrow. Let me just explain using simple terms. A B cell is a lymphocyte that normally is activated by helper T cells, as I've already said, and the work of this B cell is to cause the maturation of these plasma cells. What is the work of these plasma cells? The work of this plasma cell is to produce antibodies. Remember high school, antibodies normally work against an antigen. Remember, antigen, I said, is a foreign thing that is coming to the body. So the work of this antibody is to counteract or destroy or kill the antigen. So I hope now we are on the same page. We started with the CD4 cell, went to helper T cells, and then we are on B cells. So once we have a foreign antigen intruding the body, the helper T cell will be activated first. Once it is activated, and this activation is through the help of CD4 cell that is on the surface of this helper T cell. So this CD4 cell that are on the receptors of this helper T cell will signal other cells such as B cells, that we have a foreign thing or a foreign material or a foreign microorganism in our body cells or in our body. Once these B cells are activated, they will be proliferate, they will multiply. So they will become many, and once they become many, they activate another plasma cells or other types of cell called plasma cell. This plasma cell produces antibodies, and these antibodies will work against the antigens. Yes. Then let's see what is the immune system, or how is the immune system, and how does it work. So when a virus enters a healthy body, they are detected and identified by macrophage cells. Then these macrophage cells alert a T cells. So now I've also introduced another term called macrophage. Macrophage is also another type of white blood cell. So white blood cell, this macrophage will recognize any foreign matter. When it comes also to things that you are allergic to, it's the work of this macrophage to know that we have a foreign matter entering the body. People who are allergic to eating meat, once for the itching to come or for the pain to come caused by the allergy, it's the work of the macrophage to recognize that you have a foreign matter that you don't require in your body. That is the meat. So by that, it will alert the T cells. The same case here, we have a virus coming in or a bacteria coming in inside the body. It is the work of this macrophage, remember it's a white blood cell, to alert the T cells. Then the T cell is activated and multiplies into several kinds of T cells. Our main concern here is the helper T cells, which normally stimulates the B cells. I think I've already explained this. Then the B cell multiply and produces antibodies. But remember, these B cells are not the one that are multiplying, are not the one that are producing the antibodies. I've said this plasma cells. So this B cell multiply and produces antibodies that attack and kill the invading bacteria or invading viruses. Then let's see how the attack mechanism occurs. When HIV comes in now, it infects the T helper cells. Of course, the macrophages will know we have a foreign virus in the body, so and activate the T cells. But here now, the HIV will attack the helper T cell, meaning that it will block the ability to recognize the foreign substance, then changing the T cells into HIV factories. So if the bell doesn't ring, it means that the invaders will come to the village and do whatever they want. Now, when this HIV infects the helper T cells, it will block its ability to recognize it as a T cell. And remember, we said these helper T cells contains receptors that normally invites or capture. So if it doesn't see it as a foreign matter, it will just invite it and hold it. That's why I've said here is it normally houses the HIV into the human body. Because the T cells no longer perform their function, fighting the role, invading viruses can roam freely. So they will just freely roam your body and multiply and do whatever they want. Meanwhile, the damaged T cells produces HIV, which invades other T cells. So by housing the T cells, of course, it have already been destroyed. So this HIV will multiply and hence infect other T cells. Yeah. I hope now we've been able to see how infection occurs. There is activation of macrophages. The macrophages is supposed to activate helper T cells. If the helper T cells are blocked from seeing this HIV as a foreign matter, it will house the HIV. Then the HIV will multiply and also infect other helper T cells. And that infection will continue until the whole body is full of the virus. That's why a person who is HIV and AIDS positive, for them to know how this virus have really destroyed the immune system, they normally count the amount of CD4 cells per deciliter you have in your blood. So if in case these CD4 cells are very low, it means that your HIV have really affected your helper cell. Remember we said helper cells are the one that normally houses, let me not say houses. The CD4 cells normally are on the surface of the helper cells, meaning that if the helper cells are destroyed, the CD4 cells are also destroyed. That's why they normally count the number of CD4 cells you have in your body. Then let's see the phases of progression of HIV into AIDS. Remember I said HIV is a virus that will lead to AIDS. Let's see how this progresses. The first phase or the first step is the time when the HIV is introduced into the body and start to multiply and spread. So how does this happen? HIV can be introduced into the body in many ways, as you know. We have through sex, through blood transfusion, through parenteral ways like during birth, during breastfeeding, during accident. Once the HIV is introduced into the body, remember it will be detected by macrophages. The macrophage will activate the T cells. Then the T cells, through the helper T cells, will be blocked, or it will just infect the helper T cells, and then the body will not be able to know that it's a foreign matter. Then it will start to multiply in the cells and then spread all across the body organs as well as the whole body. Then we have the second phase, that is the window period. And this is the time from HIV infection to the time when the body begins to make detectable antibodies. Detectable antibodies. So even if you test the HIV at this period, since the body is still to make the detectable antibodies, you'll not be able to know that we have HIV and AIDS. How do HIV and AIDS how do people know that a person is suffering from HIV and AIDS? Through test. They normally test the antibodies. So if the antibodies are yet to be produced against the HIV and AIDS virus, then you will not be able to know because the antibodies are not there. It lasts approximately, can be either 3 to 6 months. So we normally say 3 because that is the minimum or the minimum months, but it's around 3 to 6 months after HIV infection. During the window phase, HIV infected individuals are infectious. They will transmit HIV and AIDS to you, but even if you test them, they will just test HIV negative because they don't have yet, they are not yet to produce the antibodies. Then if an HIV and AIDS if an individual takes an HIV test during this time, it will come out negative, though he or she is positive. This is called false negative. Then we have that diagram. I don't know whether it is very clear for you to see. It's just an explanation of how that happens. Then we have another level 4 or phase 4. And this is a symptomatic HIV phase. This is the period during which a person will test positive for HIV but does not have any signs or symptoms of the disease. Sorry, we have jumped a phase, seroconversion. We started with HIV infection, went to window period, then we have the seroconversion. This is the time when a person's blood starts developing antibodies to help fight HIV infection. Remember, the window period, we said the body cells develop the antibodies that help fight HIV infection. So this cell conversion, the blood seroconversion occurs approximately between 12 that is When the window period ends, individuals will now test from a flu, like in illness, is with symptoms such as fever, swollen lymph nodes, night sweat, skin rashes, headache, as well as cough. Sorry, just a minute. Yeah, I was still on seroconversion. Remember, I've said it's the time that your body will start to produce some antibodies. Then, phase number 4 is the asymptomatic HIV, is the period during which a person will test positive for HIV. At this phase, the person will test positive for HIV and AIDS, but does not have any signs or symptoms of the disease. So they will test positive, yes, because the seroconversion phase is over. Now they have this asymptomatic phase. The person will test positive, but you won't see any sign or symptom of the disease. People living with HIV and AIDS, that is PLWHA, can remain asymptomatic for 10 to 15 years or even more. So a person with HIV, you'll see a person very healthy, but still they have the virus in them because they're still under this asymptomatic phase. Generally, no signs or symptoms, but may be accompanied by swollen glands for a long time without any other symptoms of swollen glands, because these glands are the one that produces these lymphocytes. So if they are excessively activated or they are excessively overworked to this lymphocyte that will help fight against this disease. That's what causes the swelling of these lymph glands. Kina tonsils anakaa kila wakati amefura those tonsils. So this swollen tonsils is because the glands of these tonsils overworked. That is their overworked producing these lymphocytes. It's during this asymptomatic phase that are at great risk of transmit, because HIV is multiplying and multiplying at this time. They look and feel healthy. They may not know that they are HIV positive and may be passing on the virus to other people. This is the HIV virus. We have the envelope protein, that is also the receptor. So this receptor are the one that will come into the receptor of the helper cells and the damage protein is a P21. Have capsule here, the lipid that covers the DNA as well as the cell. Have 24 protein here. Then we have the transcriptase of the virus together with the RNA of the virus. So that's the structure of a HIV virus. Then phase number 5, during an HIV related illness or HIV related illness, is step number 5 or phase number 5. And this is when the symptoms now are starting to show, where people living with HIV and they begin to show signs and symptoms of the disease. This occurs after their symptomatic phase and can last for months to years, depending on the treatment of opportunistic infection and availability of ARVs. So if you have a lot of opportunistic infection coming in, meningitis, you have flu, you have TB, you have all these opportunistic infection coming in, malaria, diarrhea, all this. So the duration of this phase will depend on how are you treating this opportunistic infection, and are you taking in any ARVs? Then HIV related symptoms increase due to an increase in the amount of HIV virus in the body and the destruction of CD4 cells and other important immune system functions. During this period, people will begin to develop increasing opportunistic infections. So at this phase, all this opportunistic infection is coming in because remember, the CD4 cells are being destroyed, meaning that the helper T cells will not be able to recognize the HIV. So the HIV and AIDS will invade more and more helper T cells by destroying CD4 cells, and by that, the person will not have any they will have very low immune system that will help the virus to continue attacking the body. And that's why we have a lot of weight loss, a lot of chronic diarrhea. Chronic diarrhea in terms of you have diarrhea like in months. Diarrhea occurs in 3 days or one day it goes. But for a person who have a lot of this or high amount of this virus or high viral load, they will have a lot of this opportunistic infection. Then we have phase number 6, where we have the AIDS now, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, where your immunity is very deficient. You have very low immune cells that will help protect you against any disease. So AIDS is a life-threatening or terminal stage of HIV infection, where the immune system is severely weakened in people living with HIV and AIDS and cannot cope with the infection. This creates a life-threatening condition, and once a person has AIDS, he or she can be expected to live for 1 to 2 years if no treatment is available. What happens if a person withdraws from taking ARVs? So the virus will continue to multiply and proliferate such that the immune cell will be destroyed and to destroy the CD4 cells will be destroyed now and then, up until when the immune system is too low even to defend against even a flu or even a fever or even a cold. So whatever virus comes in, whatever bacteria comes into your body, whatever fungal comes into your body, it will just be home because there is no any immune system to fight against that virus. So that's when a person will develop into AIDS. It's important, very important to take the ARVs if a person is HIV and AIDS positive in order to fight all this virus or in order to help fight this virus, because ARVs, as we're going to see later, normally suppresses the multiplication of this virus. Then HIV wasting syndrome is unexplained weight loss still under AIDS, greater than 10%. We also have chronic diarrhea that also causes the wasting, because once you're diarrhea, you're losing a lot of water, a lot of nutrients from your body for longer than 1 month, and chronic fever for longer than even 1 month. So that's phase number 6, that is AIDS. Then a CD4 count of less than 200, life-threatening infections and cancer develop, such as severe lung infection, severe infection of the eye, fungal infection that causes the rash in the mouth, or infections in the vagina, infections on your armpits, infection all over because of these fungal infections. So I think that all about phases of HIV development, HIV and AIDS development stages. We start with when the HIV infects your body. Then we go to window period when you're not showing any antibodies, since the body is not yet developed these detectable antibodies that will help test positive if at all you have these detectable antibodies, meaning that at window period you're not able to test positive. Then you have seroconversion, where the body now start to develop antibodies. Now you can be able to test positive. Then after that, you have asymptomatic phase, where you're testing positive, but you're yet to show any sign or symptom. What is the difference between a sign and a symptom? A sign is what you can see. A symptom is what you feel. If a person is feeling pain, you don't see the pain, but you can see signs of pain in them. If a person is hurt, if a person is cut, you'll see the cut. If a person is sweating, that is a sign. But if a person is feeling bad in the stomach, you can't see that pain. That is when that is the phase. Then after that we have the illness comes in. The illness are not that severe, but they're starting to show up. Then after that we have the AIDS, where now full-blown infectious diseases comes in, because the HIVs virus are very many in the body, and your immune cells are low, or they are not many. So you start to develop infections, you start to develop bacterial infection, other virus infection, fungal infections that causes diarrhea, that causes many other infections in your body. Now, how is HIV and AIDS transmitted? So as I said when I was introducing the topic, HIV is transmitted through semen, through vaginal fluid, through sex contacts, well, vaginal, anal, or oral, sorry. Then we have when you have in contact, you get into contact with infected blood and blood products, such as during blood transfusion, during organ transplant, during sharing of contaminated needles and syringes. If you share these syringes, of course, you're transmitting some blood from yourself to the other person. And remember, the blood is the one that houses the viruses. What I want you to note here, a virus or HIV and AIDS virus doesn't survive outside a human cell. That's why it needs blood. That's why it needs semen. That's why it needs vaginal fluids in order to move from one person to the other, because it contains a human cells in them. Then, if you get you're sexual or sexually active with a person with HIV and AIDS, of course you'll get the transmission. Then you have perinatal transmission. That is when a person who is HIV and AIDS, a mother who is pregnant and is with HIV and AIDS, may transmit the HIV to the unborn baby if their CD4 cells are very low, or if their viral load is very high. That's why it is really important to get tested for HIV and AIDS if you're pregnant. If in case you have the HIV and AIDS and you're pregnant, you're normally given some type of special type of ARVs that will prevent your unborn baby from getting the HIV. Still, a person who is pregnant can pass the HIV and AIDS to the unborn baby if their viral load is very high. But if in case you're taking the HIV and AIDS ARVs, you'll be able to protect your son or your baby from getting infected by HIV and AIDS virus. Then we have during delivery, where the blood of the mother may mix with the blood of the unborn baby, and by that, it may cause this transmission. Then we have breastfeeding. Still, for a mother who is not taking HIV and AIDS ARVs, they may transmit this virus to the unborn baby, because remember we said breast milk also contain this HIV virus. So it's still important to take ARVs when a person is breastfeeding, if at all they have any virus, in order to protect the unborn baby from getting the virus. Then these are the myths that you want to counteract. You can't get HIV from swimming pool, from mosquito bite, from toilet bowls. So this is some signs and symptoms of a person suffering from HIV. Then who is at high risk of getting HIV and AIDS? Recipients of contaminated blood or blood products with HIV virus, multiple sexual partners, because you will pass the HIV and AIDS from one person to the other. And remember, this virus normally changes itself, what we normally call mutation. So your HIV can be different from your partner's HIV type. So even if the two of you are positive, once you have sex or once your blood comes into contact, the mutation or the type of the virus in your partner will get into you, making it worse, because each and every person or the viruses normally mutate, normally changes themselves into different forms. That's why it's important, even if you have HIV, have only one partner, because the more you mix the HIV and the viruses, the more the virus will get different, and the more confused your body will be, and hence the ARVs you're taking will not help you as it's supposed to be. Then you have sexual partners of infected persons. Then you have intravenous drug users are also at high risk. A breastfeeding child or the breastfeeding child whose mothers are not taking ARVs and they are HIV and AIDS positive. Then men having sex with men. Then we have the process of testing here. We have counseling. Then you have blood samples taken. Then we have post-test counseling. After you've tested, the person is also supposed to be counseled on if a person get positive, what are they supposed to do? If the person is negative, what are they supposed to do? Then if found twice positive if found, the test is repeated again. That's all we are saying. If found twice positive for the screening test, then if the first screening test result is negative, no further test is done. So if a person is HIV and AIDS positive, you test again to ensure that there is no any confusion. Then confirmatory, we have private and government laboratory. These are some types of cancer that you can develop. Then how do we approach HIV management? This is through testing, this is through prevention of transmission, this is through screening, this is through education, this is through ARVs therapy, then this is through symptomatic management, and also we have antimicrobial prophylaxis. So we normally help to manage HIV by counseling those who have and those also do not have, to ensure that no more transmission occurs. Then we can also prevent the spread of HIV virus by screening. By preventing transmission, by preventing the transmission through taking ARVs. If at all you have pregnant or you're pregnant, if at all you're breastfeeding, take ARVs. If at all blood is transfused, test the blood before even you do the transfusion. By screening. Why do we screen in schools? In order to know those who have and those who don't have. In order for those who have to prevent others from getting, by preventing this transmission. By educating, also we can prevent HIV transmission through educating. We can educate people to prevent also the transmission. How do we educate them? We educate people to know HIV is real, to know that HIV transmitted through the various ways, in order for them to know that the ways of transmitting this HIV and AIDS virus. Then we have ARVs therapy. We can use ARVs. We use therapy, ARVs, in order to prevent people from getting into AIDS, in order to prevent people from getting these in opportunistic infections. Then we also help manage HIV and AIDS through symptomatic management. Let's treat this symptomatic infection. Let's treat this flu. Let's treat this fever. Let's treat all this in order to overcome this HIV and AIDS opportunistic infection. Then we have antimicrobial prophylaxis. We also prevent microorganisms from infecting these people. Remember, they have very low immune cells, and by giving them things like vitamin A, giving them antibacterial medicines. So you're preventing the bacteria from from infecting the person. Remember, the HIV, their immune sensory are very low right now. Then we prevent by abstinence. We prevent the HIV transmission by abstinence, being fair to condom use, avoid drug misuse, encourage voluntary blood donation, infected females, pregnancy issues. So we prevent the pregnant mothers from passing the HIV virus to the unborn baby. We prevent the breastfeeding mother to transmitting the HIV virus to the breastfeeding mother, the breastfeeding child, by giving them HIV and AIDS ARVs, by educating them on how to breastfeed, by doing all that. We are preventing the transmission of this virus. Then, how do we advocate for all this? You can use multi-sector involvement, where we are using the media, we are using schools, we are using hospitals, we are using all cadres that may help us to prevent this spread. We can also use advocate for HIV and AIDS through World AIDS Days campaign, through memorial celebrations. So by that, we're advocating for transmission of this HIV and AIDS. So what is the current situation? We have increasing HIV statistics, increasing STI statistics. All this we'll cover in the next topic, so don't you worry about the situations. Don't worry about this topic. The HIV statistics, together with the the theories and HIV, other things on history of HIV, we'll cover in the next topic. So don't you worry, not the next topic, but the next class. We are still on the first topic of HIV needs. I just wanted to know what is HIV and how do HIV infect the immune cells, and how do HIV infection progress to AIDS. So I believe right now we are able to know that. And if in case you didn't understand any part, just ask. But please, next week, let's attend the class for us to have some interactive sections, because right now I don't know who is understanding this concept and who is not understanding the concept. But when we have one-on-one interaction, we'll be able to know where have I not explained well, where have I confused some people, and by that I'll be able to clarify on some of these issues. Remember, HIV and AIDS Day is normally on December 1st. So I think that's all for today. I will also continue watching this session, because I'm going to add another video on the same, for you to be able to understand more on HIV, introduction to HIV and AIDS. Thank you for now. Please continue watching the video that I'm going to add here. Thank you. Bye bye. So continue watching this video.
some diseases which have not found a cure till now. One of them is AIDS. About 3 million people died due to AIDS in 2003, and the disease is still spreading at an alarming rate. It affects people of all cultures. HIV, AIDS. Introduction to AIDS, structure of HIV and its stages. We often come across people suffering from various diseases, most of which can be cured. However, there are some diseases which have not found a cure till now. One of them is AIDS. About 3 million people died due to AIDS in 2003, and the disease is still spreading at an alarming rate. It affects people of all caste, creed, color, age, and gender. UNAIDS, United Nations AIDS, UNICEF, United Nations International Children's Education Fund, and WHO, World Health Organization, have risen to the occasion. Large funds are being provided and efforts are being taken to check the spread of the disease. Despite the efforts, the disease continues to spread due to lack of awareness about the disease, its virus, the modes of transmission of the virus, and a careless lifestyle. AIDS is caused by the HIV virus. HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Its name has been derived from reasons like its ability to infect only humans, its effect of creating deficiency within the body's immune system, and the fact that it is a virus that reproduces not by itself, but by taking over the machinery of the human cell. HIV belongs to the lentivirus subgroup of the Retroviridae family and is a RNA, ribonucleic acid, virus responsible for weakening the immune system, gradually leading to AIDS. It was discovered by Luc Montagnier in 1983 in Paris and Robert Gallo at USA in 1984. AIDS is an acronym for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome and is a late stage of infection with HIV. The development of AIDS can take more than 8 to 10 years post the infection. The name Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, AIDS, has derived from reasons like it being an acquired infection since a person is not born with the virus, the ability of the virus to affect a person's immune system, that is, the body's natural protection against diseases and making it deficient, and it being a group of diseases or symptoms since the victim may experience a wide range of diseases like opportunistic infections. In a short span of 22 years, HIV infection has spread from a few cases in USA to all over the world. By December 2003, 37 million adults and 2.5 million children below 15 years of age were estimated to be living with HIV/AIDS in the world, out of which 3 million died. Though in 2003 alone, around 5 million adults and children acquired HIV. More than 50% of the new infections are occurring in the age group of 50 to 24 years. country with the greatest number of HIV infected in the world. 45 in India. The first HIV infected person was detected in April 1986, and the first AIDS patient in May 1986 in Chennai. Official Indian estimates of people living with HIV/AIDS range from 3.57 to 4.58 million at the end of 2003. HIV is more prevalent in the states of Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Manipur, and Nagaland. HIV infection has spread silently from cities and towns to villages and is now found in people of all categories. It is no longer confined to high-risk groups like sex workers and patients suffering from STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. According to recent surveys, 19 of 23 districts in Andhra Pradesh show more than 1% HIV prevalence among pregnant women attending antenatal clinics. High HIV prevalence is noted in 10 districts of AP. There are an estimated 400,000 HIV positive people in the state, which is approximately 10% of the HIV cases in the country. The rapid increase in the disease in Andhra Pradesh and the apparent lack of awareness about safe behavior in the state necessitate some action from the government of Andhra Pradesh in the form of HIV/AIDS programs. HIV is a 120 nanometer sized icosahedral shaped enveloped RNA virus. HIV comprises of an outer lipid envelope. Inside lies the protein core surrounding two copies of RNA and viral enzymes, reverse transcriptase, integrase, and protease, which are essential for viral replication and maturation. Reverse transcriptase helps in ever-changing forms of virus. It is believed that since the form of genetic material is not fixed, it has been impossible to find a cure for it. There are 4 stages found in an HIV-infected person. The first stage, known as acute HIV infection, is an illness which occurs in an individual when infected by HIV, usually within 3 to 6 weeks. Such a person may suffer from flu-like symptoms for a couple of days. During this stage, there is a period when there are high levels of virus in the blood and no antibodies. This period is known as the window period. During the window period, the person is capable of transmitting the virus to others. However, the routine antibody tests are found to be negative. During the second stage, known as HIV positive, asymptomatic period or incubation period, the person is tested positive for HIV antibodies, but does not show any symptoms. Generally, this stage lasts for around 3 to 5 years. As immunity decreases, the person starts showing symptoms like fever, loose motions, and skin diseases which persist for a long time. This stage, known as the HIV positive symptomatic period, lasts for 2 to 3 years. Usually, after 5 to 10 years post the entry of HIV, the person reaches the AIDS stage. By this time, the disease-fighting capacity of the body is greatly reduced because of a deficient immune system. Then follows the secondary infection, the symptoms of which are seen in the form of TB, incessant coughing, etc. Major signs of this stage are severe weight loss, 10% of the body weight, unabated fever and diarrhea that last a month, skin rashes, ulcer, and swollen lymph glands. Around 80 to 90% of HIV infected people survive for about 10 years, 5 to 10% for 3 to 5 years, and about 5% live longer without the development of AIDS.